Hi, this is Phil, and I'm here to tell you all about the Capes and Lunatics Patreon. Get early access to all of our interviews, including the monthly Chichester chats with writer and comic book legend D.G. Chichester, new episodes of classic Capes and Lunatics shows, including The Quantum Zone, This, That, or the Third, and many, many more specials, all completely uncensored. Access starts for $3 a month, full video when you pledge $5 a month. Check out the link in our show notes, or go to patreon.com/CapesandLunatics. Hope to see you there.
This is Jam DeMatteis, and you are listening to the Capes and Lunatics podcast.
All right, kids, welcome back to the Evolutionary War Part 4 here on Marvel Tales. That's right. It's me, I am Phil, joining me, as always, the High Evolutionary himself. It is
Justin the Owl stepping out of the evolutionary bat, returning to talk some more of the Evolutionary War with Phil.
Yes, we're going to get quite the grab basket this time from X-Men Annual 12, Web of Spider-Man Annual 4, and West Coast Avengers Annual 3.
Lots of different things going on here.
Oh yeah, lots of different locales. The Savage Land, Florida, not the same place. And
close, but
pretty close, yeah. And then Wakanda, and back to the Savage Land. All right, so yeah, maybe we should jump in since we do have three annuals to discuss this time.
Yes, and they're packed with a lot of story.
Yes, including some High Evolutionary origins. So, All right, so yes, this time we start with X-Men Annual 12. At this point, wasn't the book called Uncanny X-Men? So I'm like, why is the annual just X-Men?
Yeah, it was Uncanny. I wonder if they'd change that for the app.
No. If you look at the cover, it just says X-Men. There's no Uncanny on the cover.
Oh, no. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. The X-Men. Yeah, there's no Uncanny on this. That's so strange.
I know.
Yeah, I never noticed that before.
Don't put it on there. We need to squeeze in that Evolutionary War banner.
There's only so much room on the top of this cover.
Exactly. All right, so like I said, X-Men Annual 12 Resurrection. Writer Chris Claremont, penciler Art Adams, inker Bob Wycheck, colorist Glynis Oliver, letterer Tom Orzechowski, and editor Bob Harris. Yes, part 7 of the Evolutionary War. This issue. Having detected an attack on the very Earth itself, Storm flies away from the X-Men's headquarters in Australia. That hive of scum and villainy. Almost pulling Longshot into the sky in the tailwind. If not for the fast thinking of Dazzler, who saves his life. Rogue shoots off after Storm to follow her, while Madeline and the other X-Men track her with their base's equipment. Pinpointing Storm's trajectory to Antarctica, Logan realizes that Storm is heading toward the Savage Land. In order to meet Storm there, Logan and the other X-Men gear up and have Gateway teleport them there.
Nice.
Upon their arrival, we're gonna have to do a bunch of X-Men from this era. I was gonna say Claremont era, but that was like what? That was how many years?
It was like almost 20 years. Yeah.
Maybe the
like
Australia years or something.
Yeah, the Savage Land years. Yeah.
Upon their arrival, the X-Men are shocked to see that the Savage Land has been decimated and is nothing more than a barren, frozen wasteland. Finding a bone, Logan has Longshot use his psychometric powers to learn what happened, and he relates a story how an alien creature known as Terminus, stay tuned in a few months here, kids, was responsible for the land's destruction that seemingly killed everyone in the area. Hearing this, Colossus becomes upset that a woman, a member of the Fall People, whom he first made love to when the X-Men first traveled to the Savage Land.
Ooh.
Man of Steel. Might be dead. When Psylocke begins scanning for signs of life, the X-Men are suddenly shaken by a sudden earthquake. Elsewhere in this frozen wasteland is the High Evolutionary, who has come across a sample of Sarcodes Sangia, providing his theory that the former Savage Land is not truly barren and that life can once more thrive here. He is suddenly attacked by what appears to be Terminus, who bursts from the ground and grabs the High Evolutionary in his massive hand. Seeing Terminus rise from the ground, the X-Men come to the High Evolutionary's aid. However, none of their attacks have any effect on the creature, except for Wolverine's adamantium claws. However, they provide little damage, and the armor's repair systems instantly fixes the damage done. Storm and Rogue arrive. Storm realizes that Terminus is the reason she was drawn to the Savage Land and unleashes the full fury of the winds to knock him into the side of a mountain, burying him in rubble. While Rogue rescues Wolverine, Longshot and the High Evolutionary, from the giant alien. With the battle over, the High Evolutionary explains that he has come to attempt to restore the Savage Land to its former splendor, and the X-Men agree to try and aid him, sending Havoc along with the Evolutionary while the X-Men keep an eye on Terminus. Longshot, meanwhile, wanders off, and when he slips on a patch of ice, he is shocked when he suddenly passes through some invisible portal. When Alex arrives with the High Evolutionary at the temporary base he has set up in the area, he is surprised to learn that the Evolutionary's interests stem around evolution and that he has focused much of his life to get all species to reach their true potential. Seeing a photograph of his Knights of Wundagore makes Alex consider that the Evolutionary is not all that different from Professor Xavier and his formation of the X-Men. He is then introduced to the Evolutionary's aid in attempting to restore the Savage Land, Zaladane. Alex finds her striking and wonders if he has not met her someplace before. In your dreams, kid. As they begin discussing how to restore the Savage Land, the High Evolutionary tells Havoc that someone of great power, likely a mutant, would be the key to restoring the Savage Land. Havoc considers that he knows of only one person that could succeed in a task, but so far as he knows, that person is dead. Back out in the wasteland, Dazzler realizes that Longshot is missing and decides to go looking for him. With Wolverine, weary of Dazzler's lovesick nature regarding Longshot, tags along while Storm, Rogue, Colossus, and Psylocke go to keep an eye on Terminus. When Logan's tracking of Longshot's sense leads him through the invisible portal, Dazzler screams when she witnesses Logan suddenly disappear. While not far away, Storm notices that her cameo crystal was glowing and races back to find Dazzler, ordering Rogue and Psylocke to stay and keep an eye on Terminus. When Colossus and Storm catch up to Dazzler, Storm raises her cameo crystal and a portal suddenly opens, and the massive form of the Warhound Sajim emerges from the portal. However, before Colossus can attack, Storm explains that she met this creature during their first visit to the Savage Land. The X-Men are surprised a number of beings from the Savage Land survived, rescued by Storm's friend Emrin, and brought to her dimension. Colossus is happy to be reunited with Nereal, whom he also survived. She has a son named Peter. However, she asks Longshot not to reveal that Colossus is the boy's son. Just then, Terminus revives, and as Rogue attempts to pull Psylocke away, they are knocked out of the sky. With Storm staggering their foe with a lightning bolt, everyone gets the Sajim's back, and the giant beast attacks Terminus with its advanced weapons. However, they have no effect on Terminus. During the course of the battle, Havoc and the High Evolutionary return with a plan, quickly implementing it. Rogue uses her powers to absorb Longshot's luck powers. With them, Rogue flies toward Terminus's mask, smashing through it, revealing their enemy not to be Terminus at all, but Garrock hooked up to the machine. Under the machine's influence, Garrock attempts to attack Rogue. However, she begins absorbing his powers as well, weakening him to the point where he pulls away from the devices, controlling the massive suit of armor. Without Garrock powering the giant suit, the X-Men are then easily able to smash it into a flaming pile of rubble, while Rogue and Garrock are rescued by Storm and Colossus, where it would lay until Quasar issue 7.
Yeah.
See, that's the thing. Quasar 7, it doesn't have Acts of Vengeance on it, but it kind of has to be an Acts of Vengeance issue because he teams up with the cosmic-powered Spider-Man.
Yeah, it feels like it's an X of Vengeance issue.
It has to be, because he has his cosmic powers, Spider-Man. So.
Yeah. Oops.
Exactly.
They left the little thing off the cover in the corner.
Free from the machine's influence, Garrock is shocked to see what has happened to his land and agrees to help the High Evolutionary restore the Savage Land. When Colossus asks Nereal about her son's father, she doesn't tell him the truth, telling him that the man is gone and she will raise the boy on her own. Soon at the High Evolutionary Citadel, it is determined that Garrock would have to sacrifice his life in order to restore the Savage Land to its glory. Garrock, having cheated death many times and having enough love for his land to sacrifice his life for it, agrees to do so. As the X-Men oversee the operation, the Savage Land mutates, led by Zaladane, watch eagerly, seeing this as playing into their hands and the first step to their goal of conquering the world. The High Evolutionary is aware of this, and he secretly plots to foil this plan and activates the device that converts Garrock into pure energy that restores the Savage Land to its glory, restoring the vast tropical forest and its prehistoric wildlife. The X-Men then helps the survivors of the Savage Land rebuild before leaving. However, Storm orders Psylocke to alter their memories so that they do not fully remember who helped them. Sometime later, after the X-Men have left, Kazar and his family return to the Savage Land and are surprised to see that the survivors have formed together as the United Tribes and have created a banner given to them by their saviors. When Kazar and Shauna ask who helped them, all New Real can tell them that their saviors were merely legends. And that summary had more words than a Claremont issue.
I was going to say, did he write it?
All right, thoughts?
I love this comic book so much. This is like one of my Desert Island books.
Oh,
like,
nice!
I love the artwork in this. I love the story. I love everything about this.
Your girl Betsy's in it.
The girl Betsy's in it, wearing that great armor. And I mean, Arthur Adams is one of my favorite illustrators, and he became one of my favorites from this issue.
Oh, nice!
Like I think this is the first time I ever saw his pencils, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is amazing!" But it had it all. Just the fact that we have the X-Men fighting Terminus. I mean, wow! Like that alone floored me. Like the X-Men fighting this massive giant, what we thought was an alien. Mm-hmm. But also what was cool was right before this annual had come out, maybe a year before this, or less even, I had read in the pages of Classic X-Men, which were the reprints of the 70s stuff. They had just done the storyline where the X-Men were in the Savage Land, the Claremont and Byrne stuff, and where Colossus had met Nereel and all those people and had that romance with her, and they had met Sajim and the Warhound and all those people. Like, so I had just read that story and I was familiar with all these people. I was like, oh cool, so they're bringing all these people back, and I knew that it had been a while since we had seen them, so that was also neat. But just the fact that we have a sequence in this comic book where Terminus, this gigantic robot, is fighting this gigantic warhound with a ship on its back. I mean, that's just, it's so cool. I just love it so much. It's so wild.
And just this tiny speck of Wolverine just scratching down the side of Terminus.
Yeah. And they use some great teamwork here because, you know, Rogue absorbs Longshot's luck power so that she can smash through Terminus's visor. And then Wolverine does the slashing thing so that Havoc can use his blast to do some actual damage to Terminus. And then Dazzler does her blast, which knocks Garrock out of the driver's seat of the Terminus cockpit. It was some really great teamwork that the X-Men used here to defeat this massive threat. So, yeah, I can't say enough good things about this annual. I love it so much.
Yeah. And the High Evolutionary actually does something good for once and restores the Savage Land.
Right, exactly. This is kind of like the most altruistic we see him in the entire Evolutionary War. Like, the first time we see him in this issue, he's just strolling along and observes this flower poking up out of the ground with an almost kind of childlike innocence. Mm-hmm. And later on, when Havoc is hanging out with him and sees the picture on his wall in his base, he starts comparing him to Charles Xavier and all this stuff. So we see another reason I like this issue is because we see the High Evolutionary through a different lens.
Yeah.
Like it's not just this dude that's after, that's trying to purify and sterilize people and remove their mutant powers or kill a bunch of drug dealers. Like, here he is strolling around in the desolate wasteland that used to be the Savage Land and finds this rare, beautiful flower poking out of the ground and is completely transfixed by it. And does something to help. Like, he actually helps the people of the Savage Land restore their homeland to what it was before Terminus landed there in the Avengers story. Mm-hmm. So he does a lot to help people with no interest of his own. Like, I mean, he's not really going to advance anything to do with human evolution by hanging out in the savage land. So there's no real ulterior motive for him to do this. He's just doing it out of the goodness of his heart. So that was a nice thing to see too, a different side of the character. I like that.
But I just remember 1988, I was like 10 years old. I remember reading stuff like this. I'm like, so is this guy supposed to be a good guy or a bad guy? I'm like,
what is he? Yeah. But that's what makes it cool, because you don't really know. Like one issue he's one thing, and one issue he's the next. And yes, I mean, that does depend on the writer. And I think this was the only time that Chris Claremont wrote a High Evolutionary story. But I really like it because it does add a different dimension on the character, a different side.
And I love, the Savage Land was destroyed. Was that an Avengers issue? Was that Roger Stern or?
It was, I think. It was John Buscema on the artwork too.
So then Claremont's like, no, I'm going to keep playing with the Savage Land. We're bringing it back.
It's like, no, I'm not done with that yet. Which I was happy about, to be honest with you. When I read that Avengers story, I was like, oh, come on. I love the Savage Land. Like, don't be destroying that.
I'm sure a lot of people were probably complaining about that. That's probably part of the reason they brought it back. Russell, we need shades of gray in our characters. Yeah,
that's right.
That's why I love Joe Fix.
Makes them interesting.
That's why I love Joe Fixit.
The ultimate shades of gray.
Oh yes, physically and personality. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And then
it makes the High Evolutionary more interesting.
Oh yeah. Great story, great art, and then they actually have the backup story for this annual because the Marvel's hit or miss. This is the first appearance of the X Babies, right?
The X Babies and some more gorgeous artwork from Art Adams. My God, he's so good, so good.
Mojo.
And I loved the prototype X things that they were doing, like the cyborg X-Men, and the Chippendales, like the
animals,
the animal X-Men.
There's one where they're all women.
Yeah. Oh God, I was laughing so hard reading this backup and reminding myself of when I was 11 and laughing at it.
All right, and then of course we get another High Evolutionary origin, but
yes,
I don't have a synopsis for this one, but
in this one he's kind of training these Knights of Wundagore.
Yes.
We see the Knights of Wundagore for the first time. They've got these cool purple and blue armors with these skull masks on, and you get the feeling that he's creating his own kind of like little society here almost.
Yeah, and of course Magnus, who's still in Jonathan Drew's body, is hinting at because again he's from the Middle Ages, so of course he would suggest this.
Mm-hmm.
Russell, Mojo, and Dr. Bong would not get along. I would pay to see that.
That would be great if those two were the same story. We need a Dr. Bong in Mojo.
Mojo
actually,
laying on the couch.
Mojo would want Dr. Bong in Mojoverse to like host a game show or something.
Oh, there you go. Oh, you guys see? Oh, some episode you need to do a game show, and Dr. Bong's going to be the host. Yes.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Just looking at these backups.
There's a battle in this too with Chthon, or I guess not him, but like an avatar of the demon.
Yeah.
That attempts to attack Mount Wundagore, and even the High Evolutionary joins in the battle with his knights.
Oh, and hey, just coincidentally, at the same time, a pregnant gypsy woman shows up. Who gives birth to twins, and one of them, the girl, is gets touched by Chthon.
I wonder who she could be.
Wait a minute. So I'm trying to think. What did it say? What year this is? Because remember, we were in the 30s for a while there.
Yeah, but in one of the last ones that we covered in the last episode, I think it was 1923 was one of the years they dropped, right?
Oh, it says for over a decade, so this is at least 10 years in the future, but that still only brings us to the 40s.
Mm-hmm.
So I was going to say, I don't think Wanda and Pietro are that old.
No. If you notice, at some point, Marvel stopped using, like, years.
Yeah.
They didn't want to run into this conundrum. Like, they were just like, stop.
Yeah.
Stop doing that. Just do like a year into the future. Like if you're going to use do things like time jumps and stuff like that.
Because the notes in one of the summaries I saw, it's like, oh yeah, it's like Herbert Wyndham was still like 1930s, because he found a way to like slow his aging and stuff. So,
yeah.
And then again, Captain America is always going to be World War II. He just spends longer and longer in the ice. That's
right. Yeah.
Because remember in the 60s when he first came out, he only been in the ice for like 20 years, and then now it's like.
He was in there for 50 years.
I know. Oh my God. By the time, can you imagine how many more years we got? Like, I cannot wait. I'm going to be an old man if I make it that long. I'll probably be in my 90s, but when they hit the 2060s, I'll be like, I was in the ice for 100 years.
I was in the ice for 100 years. I have a panic attack every time I pass an ice maker.
Oh yeah, sliding time. All right, should we get to the next one?
Yeah, Web of Spider-Man annual.
Yes.
Number 4.
Remember, kids, Spider-Man had 3 books at the time, so yes, we're getting some more Spider-Man after we got some last episode. All right.
Yeah.
Web of Spider-Man annual 4. Takes place between Web of Spider-Man 43 and 44, kids. So, art by Ray's favorite Alex Saviuk and John Romita. Maybe the cover. Yeah, the cover is Alex Saviuk and John Romita.
Saviuk.
So. Sweet Poison. Oh, writer. I glanced over the credits somehow. Writer Steve Gerber.
I forgot about that too.
So did I. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not just for boys.
Penciler and inker Cynthia Martin. Colorist Janet Jackson.
Miss Jackson, if you're nasty.
So like the letterer Rick Parker and editor Jim Salicrup. So the art was done by all women in this. So at least in this story. So yeah.
Yeah. Very cool.
All right. Peter Parker is on a Florida talk show to promote his new book Webs, which features the many photos he took of Spider-Man over the years. I remember this era. After the interview, Peter returns to his hotel room, calls his wife, and complains about how exhausted he is after traveling to 12 cities in 10 days and appearing on 11 talk shows.
It was a lot.
And I don't know what she was doing with her hair or her clothing on that page.
Oh, yeah, I know. Yikes. She just stuck a fork in a electric socket or something.
Because when I saw that, I'm like, oh, of course he's probably being drawn by men, but she wasn't. I'm like, wait, what? Now I'm like, wait, a woman drew her like that in those clothes?
Well, it was 88, remember?
That's true.
Yeah.
He tries to convince Mary Jane to come down to Miami to spend some time with him, but she tells him that she has a photo shoot to do and can't make it. When there is a knock at the door, Peter lets MJ go and sees who it is. It turns out to be the hotel cleaning lady who, for some strange reason, has set off his spider sense. Like, badly. He's just like, it's like razors.
Like a massive migraine attack.
She tells him that she will be done as quickly as possible, saying that she works quickly so she can go home to her son Carlos, who is out of school for the summer. Peter's a little surprised that a woman so young could have a child, but she tells him that sometimes she forgets her real age and tells Parker that it's a long story, something she hopes to one day tell Carlos's father. When the woman leaves, Peter's relieved as his spider sense was becoming unbearable. He's not the only one who feels strange. Once out of the room, the cleaning lady asks some unseen presence what the sensation she was having. Assured that this is not a target to destroy, she is impressed to know that what it feels like to sense someone with power that is devoid of corruption. Meanwhile, in the Florida Everglades, an army of the High Evolutionaries and Eliminators have arrived with a spatial dissonance generator. Yeah.
Ooh.
When they activate the device, it rips a hole in reality. We were doing genetic stuff. Now we're ripping holes in space.
I know. That escalated quickly.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm just like, really?
Well, that escalated quickly.
This then attracts the Man-Thing from the swamps.
It's a giant size thing.
It is a Steve Gerber story.
That's true. Yeah. That's true. And we are in the Florida Everglades.
It's a giant size Man-Thing.
Drawn here by the force that is threatening the land he was chosen to protect. However, the rip in reality also affects the Man-Thing, causing the muck monster to explode. Oh, so that Man-Thing exploded all over the place. Okay.
I need a towel for that.
Oh, my. What is this, a massage parlor? While in New York City, once again, the Kingpin has placed a call to the Slug, a drug supplier in Florida, which I remember reading this. I was like, is this his first appearance? No. He appeared in at least one Grunwald Captain America issue before this. So.
Yeah, where Nomad almost beats him to death
Yes.
with his bare hands.
They are talking to the Central American drug supply being cut off and suggest the pair work together to deal with their mutual problem. After getting assurances that the Slug's men were not responsible for the supply cutoff, the two begin getting to work on a joint venture. Later, as the housekeeper that Peter encountered, Cecilia Cardinal, finishes her workday, she tells the voice in her mind that she is tired and wants to go home. As she gets on a bus, the voice tells her that they have to go out that evening so they can hunt, telling her to get her son a babysitter and get some rest, as the night belongs to them. Back in the Everglades, the Eliminators are reeling with pain from the rip in reality. Suddenly, blood begins to drip out of the hole in existence. When it strikes one of the Eliminators, it burns him down to the bone. They are contacted telepathically by the High Evolutionary, who tells his minions to be brave as this mission is important to his genetic program and the fate of humanity. He explains that the swamp is the nexus of all realities and warns that when there is a cosmic axis shift, genetic pollutants slip through the cracks in reality that can affect the very fabric of existence. Although most of these strains die off in Earth's atmosphere, some could adapt and survive. By this time, Cecilia has arrived home to find her son Carlos watching television. Yeah, G.I. Joe. She spends some time playing with her son before telling him to get cleaned up before going to the babysitter. Carlos is disappointed that his mother is going out for yet another evening. Later that evening, Peter Parker can't sleep in the uncomfortable motel room bed and decides to go out and grab a bite to eat. However, hearing one of the Slug's men beating up on a rival drug dealer named Santo, Peter changes into Spider-Man and interrupts the beating. Spider-Man pulls Santo out of the car and swings away, asking Santo what is going on. At first, Santo is reluctant to talk, but the drug dealer eventually relents. Back at Cecilia's home, the woman has just taken a shower and tells the voice in her mind that she is ready to go out. From her closet hangs a costume as well as a scarlet necklace with a skull on it. She puts on the necklace, the first step in her transformation into Poison. By this point, Santo has finished telling Spider-Man everything he knows, and the wall crawler departs. No sooner is Spider-Man gone does a pair of the Evolutionary's purifiers arrive. The armored being explains that he is preventing the pollution of the genetic structure. He blasts Santo with his purification ray, killing him instantly. By this time, the Slug has learned that Spider-Man is in Florida and calls the Kingpin to report this. The Slug assures the Kingpin that Spider-Man will not interfere in their attempts to secure the drug reserves in the region. Meanwhile, Poison is hovering over her apartment complex. The voice turns her attention to the purifiers that are approaching her home. It tells her that they know about her plan and plan to eliminate her. She floats down to the ground and then kills the intruders in order to preserve her life. Among the people who come out to watch the carnage is her son Carlos. The boy recognizes his mother, but as Poison floats into the air once more, his babysitter tells him that it could not be his mother. The voice tells her that they must go to where the worlds intersect. Meanwhile, Spider-Man has gotten a boat and is traveling through the Florida Everglades. With the information he got from Santos, leads him to the hidden cache of drugs that were left over from a recent political scandal. The Marvel Comics Presents story, which that's one we're covering, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's the Man-Thing. That's the Man-Thing one, right?
Yeah, the 12-part one.
So stay tuned for October, kids.
Yeah.
Finding a discarded refrigerator locked up in chains. Breaking the lock, Spider-Man finds a huge catch of cocaine and begins snapping photos. So we're going from rips in reality to cocaine. Yes.
It's like,
everyone loves cocaine. Everyone loves cocaine.
He is interrupted by a gang of the Slug's enforcers who are also out looking for the drugs. However, before they can attack, they are mowed down by two Eliminators. Spider-Man leaps up into the tree to snap more photos when suddenly his spider sense begins going off painfully once again. So I wonder who that could be.
It's ting ting ting-a-lid, ting ting ting-a-lid.
Looking up as he witnesses the housekeeper in the hotel floats down to the ground. Spider-Man can hardly believe it, but is forced to defend himself from the exterminators before he can truly process it. Meanwhile, the voice in Poison's head tells her that they will soon be parting company. It asks her if she will miss its presence, but she will actually be relieved. The essence takes control of her body and begins projecting energy from her body. The presence then emerges from her body as smoke from her mouth. It explains that it has permanently changed her and possibly her son. It also warns that the ones who will come to eliminate her know this, hence their presence here. However, the being has become strong enough to open a portal and return from whence it came. When the tear in the nexus repaired, the Man-Thing begins to reincorporate itself and rise from the swamps.
It's a giant-sized man thing.
Back at the drug stash, Spider-Man finds himself caught in the middle of the firefight. He recognizes the exterminators when he fought some of them alongside Daredevil. See last episode. See last episode, kids. The Amazing Spider-Man annual.
That's right.
Soon the Man-Thing arrives on the scene. Seeing the muck monster, both the exterminators and drug dealers try to kill the creature, but their bullets pass harmlessly through the muck monster. Spider-Man then webs up the shooters while they are distracted by the Man-Thing. With the danger over, the Man-Thing shambles back into the swamps as though nothing had happened. After dropping the crooks off at the police station, Spider-Man returns to his hotel room to try to get some sleep. The next morning, he is woken by a knock at his door. At first, he thinks it is the housekeeper and tells her to go away. However, it turns out to be Mary Jane, who decided to take him up on his offer to come down to Miami after all. Happily ever after.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some definite hotel room shenanigans going on there. Yeah.
Yes. All right, kids. And again, yes, whatever creature that was has left poison, but she will show up in future Spider-Man issues. And now she has powers, but no creature living inside her. So
right, yeah. And I was looking too because I wondered where else she had appeared, and there was a story in Marvel Comics Presents that.
Oh yeah, that too. Yeah,
ran for a few issues that she was part of, and then it looks like she appeared in some Wolverine issues later on.
Oh, okay. I don't know if I read those, but yeah, I know. Yeah, she was in Marvel Comics Presents. I read some of that not too recently. And I think there was there's like one Spider-Man story with Peter again, but then I know she does show up when Ben Reilly is Spider-Man also. So
yeah, that's the one of the ones I looked at in the list. Yeah, it was can't remember what year that was, but
because she shows up and is like she shows up and it's like, oh, Spider-Man's me Poison, and Ben has to pretend he knows. Like, oh yeah, you. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you. I wonder if it was the Astonishing Spider-Man. Was it that?
No, it was no. It was Spider. It was like the regular the adjectiveless Spider-Man book. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It was like right after Ben Reilly becomes Spider-Man. Yeah, but she might show up again in a.
Yeah, it looks like there was an issue of Astonishing Spider-Man that she appeared in with Silver Sable and Mysterio.
Oh.
And that was a Ben Reilly issue. It was from 1998. The Astonishing Spider-Man. I never read that one. But yeah, so Poison's appeared a little bit, like I think maybe 6, 7, 8 other appearances after this. But I thought she was a cool character. I was kind of surprised to see that she hadn't appeared more, actually.
Yeah, so yeah, she basically got some powers, but I don't know if they ever fully explained what that entity was inside her. I think later on they just call it like an alien or something, but yeah.
They didn't talk about it in the Marvel Comics Presents story.
I'm trying to remember. I don't think
I don't remember that either.
Like I've been trying to find back issues of Marvel Tales, so I didn't get the complete story, but yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember either, but it was cool. I remember thinking at the time that this was so different from the other chapters of the Evolutionary War and the tone. I mean, obviously Steve Gerber, it's going to be different anyway, but I liked how they still thread it together with the High Evolutionary stuff. I just thought it was weird with the whole, like you said, the machine, the reality ripping machine. Like, where did that come from? Like, how? I would have thought that they would have been more interested in taking out the Slug's drug operations in Miami.
Yeah.
They would have been more preoccupied with that investment rather than this reality warping machine that just kind of came out of nowhere.
I mean, unless High Evolutionary thought he was going to get more stuff from the nexus of all realities, or had they succeeded, maybe it just would have been like, oh yeah, by the way, on your way home, go kill the slug.
Right? Yeah. While you're down there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But these weren't the purifiers though, so weren't they the ones killing drug dealers?
Well, it was the Eliminators too, which we saw in this
yeah.
issue, because they were the ones in the Punisher annual that were taking out El Cayman's guys. So,
and
it's
once again a Spider-Man annual introducing a new character.
Yep, Poison. Yeah, I wish that she had appeared more. To be honest with you, she's really cool. She's a unique character.
Oh yeah,
and especially for this time, for 1988, it was nice to see like a Latina superhero or super character. I don't know if she wasn't really a hero in this story. She was kind of a ambiguous gray character,
almost like an anti-hero, almost.
Yeah, which again we always need more of.
Yeah,
but her powers were so cool, and just her whole thing with the alien entity was so weird and mysterious and neat.
Yeah, but again, it's nice to see, especially in this era, not only like a new female character, but not. One who wasn't just another white woman.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like I said, we needed more of that, especially in 1988.
Yeah. Definitely.
Absolutely. So, yeah, that's why I wish we'd seen more of her. I wish that she had appeared more, but maybe we'll see her again some more someday.
And again, it's always hard because like whoever creates the character, then if they don't come back to it, someone has to pick them up, which they did with Poison, but.
Yeah, I think didn't Steve Gerber write those Marvel Comics Presents issues with her in them?
Oh, he might have. I can't remember.
I feel like he did.
Yeah.
I feel like he did.
But I know the Ben Reilly issue was I think it was Howard Mackey. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he's a good writer. He's got a good grasp of characters like that. Yeah, but yeah, I can imagine that's kind of challenging for people to be like, oh, I've got to write for a Steve Gerber created character. Got to do my homework.
I know he squeezed in the man thing. If anything else, if there had been any more Gerber, Howard would have fell through that.
I know, right?
Reality.
Yeah.
You know how duck penises work, right?
Wow! At first, I didn't like the artwork in this issue when I was a kid. I thought it was so different than the art in any of the other annuals. And then, coming from the Arthur Adams artwork in the X-Men annual to this, it was such a different change. But now I love it. Now I think it looks fantastic. I really enjoy it, especially all of the scenes with all the panels with Poison and the alien entity and the nexus of all realities and that stuff. It's just really great artwork. Cynthia Martin does a really good job with faces too, human faces. There's a lot of really good ones in this.
Yeah. I'm just looking at again another summary because again the Poison backup was not on the app, so.
Yeah, there was a really good backup with her in this.
Yeah, give you her origin here, where it's I have this annual, but I haven't read it in years, so I forgot all about this.
Me too.
Yeah,
it's been like 20 years.
Well, I mean, basically, yeah, she fled Cuba, when she was pregnant, and that's when this creature, what's the name, Yalandris, merges with her while she's giving birth.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why the son could be affected too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Marvel, if you're listening, put these backups on the app. Fix that mess.
Yeah, exactly.
People need to read this stuff.
Give us our money's
Especially
worth.
if it's got origins for these characters that you're seeing for the first time in these annuals. I mean, come on. Get it together, Marvel.
And again, I get it if there's like rights issues, but I don't think there's any rights issues. I'm pretty sure Marvel owns all these characters.
No. Yeah, this was before all that stuff got hashed out, so they would have rights to all this stuff.
Because I want them to put Marvel Comics Presents on the app, but like from what I heard, that would be a giant pain in the ass because it's like there's so many different writers and artists and
each issue there's like 4 or 5, 6 stories.
you would have to work out compensation for all these people. It's just
yeah. And how would you do like an omnibus or an epic collection of Marvel Comics Presents in any way that would at all make any sense?
I don't know if you could do an omnibus, but I mean, like they could do smaller trades of like each arc, like arcs and stuff. Like there was a Black Panther story that went on for I don't know how long.
Oh yeah, they collected that, didn't they?
I don't know. Did they?
Oh,
The only one that I know of that they collected, of course, was that Weapon X.
Well, yeah.
Of course, yeah.
The Barry Windsor Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah. It would be cool if they collected the Man-Thing story from that, which we're going to cover later in the year.
Yeah.
That's excellent stuff. It's Steve Gerber with some amazing artwork by Tom Sutton. It's so creepy. It's crazy. I love it. And it's enough to it's a long enough story where you could fill a whole volume with it. If you collected it.
I'm just surprised that they don't find a way to collect those because, it started off with, every issue has to have a story about one of the mutants, and then it eventually became every issue has to have a Wolverine story in it.
Yeah. It was kind of like his unofficial book for a while. Yeah.
Even like some of those later issues, like I'm surprised they don't, so 90s, it's like Wolverine story followed by a Ghost Rider story.
Ghost Rider and War Machine.
Exactly.
And the Punisher, yeah. Venom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, they definitely pumped that in the 90s.
Because I'm pretty sure I read an issue of that because, like I said, I've been trying to collect the back issues where Wolverine factually meets that version of Ghost, the Danny Ketch Ghost Rider. And of course they fight.
Of course. Yeah, it's a given.
All right. Shall we get to the High Evolutionary chapter origin here? Because, we got one more issue to cover, too.
That's true, yeah.
All right. So, oh, God, All My Children.
Oh, no.
The High Evolutionary is going over the toll taken on his Knights of Wundagore following their battle against the demon Chthon. With the death count at 17, the losses weigh heavily on the High Evolutionary, who is forced to train his new men in the ways of war to protect their society. That's when he is joined by the sorcerer known as Magnus, who is still possessing the body of Jonathan Drew. He has come with the body of Baron Rusoff, another casualty of the battle against Chthon. Drew explains that while the High Evolutionary and his charges were battling Chthon, the spirit of Magnus discovered that Rusoff was responsible for summoning the ancient demon. Magnus took possession of Rusoff's body and forced him to cast the banishment spell in the Book of Darkhold. Magnus explains that Gregor was attempting to cure himself of lycanthropy. Later in his study, the High Evolutionary ponders over the supernatural, something he denied for years until the battle with Chthon. He is interrupted by Bova, who shows him two twin children that were both born by Magda, who died during the night. Although it happened during the night. Although Magda survived, she fled in the night, leaving a note telling Bova to turn the children over to a good family. The High Evolutionary tells Bova to look after the children until he can find suitable parents for the children. That's when Magnus comes to say farewell before leaving the body of Jonathan Drew so he can return to his eternal rest. He soon departs, telling the High Evolutionary to take good care of Jonathan's daughter Jessica. Later, Sir Porga has arrived with Robert and Madeline Frank, who have come to get assistance in Madeline's pregnancy. The High Evolutionary finds this will be the ideal couple to give the twins. However, things turn tragic when Madeline's biological child is stillborn and she dies giving childbirth. Still, Bova tries to deceive Robert Frank into thinking that the twins are his children. Unfortunately, Frank is so distraught over the death of his wife, he speeds away. The High Evolutionary has just revived Jessica Drew and is about to explain what has happened to her when he is interrupted by Bova with the news regarding the Franks. The High Evolutionary decides to give the children to a couple in a nearby Romany village. The couple in question are Django and Maria Maximoff, who promised to raise these twins like their own children. Yes, kids, remember, they thought they were the children of the Maximoffs. Then they discovered they might be the children of, Robert Frank, a.k.a. the Wizard, in his yellow costume and all.
Yeah. You're in yellow, yeah.
And after that, then they discovered they were Magneto's children.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a bit. It's fitting that it was named All My Children because it was a little bit of a soap opera for a while.
Yes.
Who is the real father?
Yes, the political scandal was Marvel Comics Presents 1 through 12. So.
1 through 12.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, it was a long story.
It's saying that Spider-Man and Daredevil fought the Purifiers in the Amazing Spider-Man Annual and Daredevil Annual 4? Wait a minute, that's Atlantis Attacks. Or are they back? I'm trying to remember.
Daredevil Annual number 4?
Well, it's the Atlantis Attacks Annual, but I'm just like, so did they make a return appearance? I'm trying to remember because Lilith and I covered it, so I'm trying to remember what.
I don't remember that either.
Unless that's a mistake. I don't know.
Could be, yeah. Maybe they're in a backup or something in that.
Yeah, maybe. All right, so should we get to the last one, the West Coast Avengers annual?
Yes, yeah.
All right. This one's gonna be weird, kids, because I do not have. Well, I didn't have a regular synopsis. I found kind of like a review or something. So yeah, I'll read that. But all right, West Coast Avengers Annual 3. Heads you lose, and tails you win, because we kind of get two main stories.
Tale of two teams.
Yes. The first Heads You Lose is by Steve Englehart, penciler Al Milgram, inker Jerry Talolac, colorist Mark Sheary, letterer Bill Oakley, and editor Mark Grunwald. And almost the same team on the second one, except inks were by Christopher Ivey, and that's the only difference. All right. So different inkers. Hold on, let me switch here. Get these weird synopses here. All right. The High Evolutionary sends his gatherers to Wakanda to steal vibranium for his genetic bomb. That makes sense. More than holes in reality. Bill Foster, working at the High Evolutionary's base, manages to hide a note on the uniform of one of the gatherers. In Wakanda, T'Challa defeats the gatherers and finds the note. He contacts the West Coast Avengers because it said to contact Hank Pym, but he's no longer on the team. He contacts the West Coast Avengers. Just after they arrive, the censors arrive to steal the vibranium. During the battle, Stack, leader of the gatherers, is able to secretly steal a sample of vibranium. The Avengers leave Wakanda to investigate what is going on in the Savage Land, and they find a crater. Where did that crater come from? Well, let's get to the second story. Mockingbird, Moon Knight, and Tigra arrive in the Savage Land. They learn about the restoration of the Savage Land by the High Evolutionary from Kazar. And again, no one knows it was the X-Men because they got the mind wipe in the beginning of this episode. So
Right.
They investigate. Okay, this is kind of nice. We moved the West Coast Avengers Annual because we're back at the Savage Land, and it's like, oh yeah, the X-Men mind wiped everybody. They investigate and learn the High Evolutionary wants to detonate a bomb that will mutate all humans. During the battle, Bill Foster takes a new serum which restores his growth powers and cures his cancer. Stack, leader of the High Evolutionary's gatherers, returns with a sample of vibranium. With the final component in hand, the High Evolutionary flees to finish building his bomb. We get a big explosion. That's where the crater comes from. All right, thoughts?
This one was a little weird, yeah, because we did have two different teams here. This was during the time when, for the uninitiated, the West Coast Avengers had a bit of a split in their ranks. Hawkeye and Mockingbird were a couple, but got into a rift over the fact that Mockingbird let a villain who basically drugged and raped her fall to his death.
Yeah.
And Hawkeye didn't like that, and so they got into a huge argument, and Moon Knight and Tigra decided to go with Mockingbird and join her. They thought that she was completely justified in her actions. And the rest of the team obviously went with Hawkeye. So, yeah, this annual was a little weird because of that, but I still really liked it. I liked the fact that we saw Bill Foster again. I think it had been quite a long time since he had last appeared. And then also we get some really weird villains that I don't think ever appeared again after this. The censors, taste, smell, and touch, and all that.
Yeah,
those were definitely some weirdo Steve Englehart villains if I ever saw them. An intuition.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I love that. It was so good.
But I do like that they included both teams and stuff, and I love the whole Khonshu thing where they, he tries to High Evolutionary tries to gas them, and Khonshu just takes over Mark Spector's body. He's like, I can hold his breath. He can,
Yeah. I've done this before, actually.
But then Mark's body gives out. He's like, damn you, Mark Spector.
Yeah, it's like, I've got to take over this body again. There's some great artwork from Al Milgram, too, who did the art on the West Coast Avengers regular series. for a while. Then we get that great scene at the end where Bill Foster grows to giant size and takes on the High Evolutionary.
Yes, because once again, the High Evolutionary grew to take on the Watcher last time. Now he's like growing large again, and Bill Foster's like, "Oh, let's take this serum."
Yeah, I can do that too, sucker. I can do it better than you.
I love how he was like, "I was here to cure myself, and hey, I get to save a lady at the same time." Yes, even better.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, and he helps them out. He shelters them when the explosion happens. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I love that they included Bill Foster in this. He's excellent.
But it was so weird. So it was like, wait a minute. So it said it cured his cancer, but didn't Jessica Drew's blood cure him? But I guess he still couldn't. He couldn't stand changing the giant size then. So that's what the serum was for. Yeah. That's a weird thing. It's like, he saved his life. Because again, the West Coast Avengers era, that was like Hank Pym too. Like he couldn't change size for a while either because for health things.
Yeah, he could only use his Pym particles to like make other things.
Other things, yeah.
Yeah, other objects grow,
which was pretty cool.
Shrink. Yeah, that was cool.
But then they put him back on the main Avengers team. They're like, he can grow again.
Yeah, didn't they have it that he had heart issues for a while, and that was the reason?
Oh yeah, remember? I mean, I know you blocked it out of your mind, but the crossing where he would grow a few times. He was like,
my heart. Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah, I think that was why they explained why he couldn't change himself in his size for a while, because it put too much strain on him.
Maybe when they came back from Heroes Reborn, maybe Franklin fixed that among other things.
Yeah.
Because they did have that backup in an Avengers annual, was it 98 or 99? They're just like, oh yeah, Franklin fixed things like Hawkeye's hearing's back. Janet Van Dyne's not a giant mutated wasp anymore. And, Teen Iron Man, old Iron Man.
Iron Man's not a kid anymore.
He smashed them all together and brought back original Tony Stark. So.
Yeah, he basically fixed everything. We gotta love Franklin Richards for that.
because basically, everybody who's working on this, the Heroes Return stuff was like, I ain't dealing with that crossing crap.
Yeah. I'm not touching that crap with a 12-foot pole. Are you kidding me?
Like two of those three examples were from the crossing, so it's like, yeah, no, I ain't touching it.
Yeah. Big old stink pile.
But then once again, Hawkeye would lose his hearing again years later.
Yeah. Well, not again.
Well, that's the thing. It's so weird. I mean, I know different writers in different eras, but it's like in this era, the big, like you said, the big split between Hawkeye and Mockingbird was like, she let she didn't even kill the Phantom Rider, did she? She just let him die, right? Because he was hanging off the cliff.
He was hanging off the edge of the cliff, and she just kind of stood there and watched him.
She played by Christian Bale Batman roles. I ain't gonna kill you, but I'm not gonna save you.
Right? Yeah.
Oh, good for you.
But it's like Hawkeye's like, Avengers don't kill no matter what, or don't let people die. But then meanwhile, we get to like 2010, and it's Dark Reign. Hawkeye's like, yeah, let's kill Norman Osborn.
Ronin.
Yeah, let's kill Norman Osborn. Let's slice people up with a samurai sword.
Forget Ronin. Yeah, and plus, like, the thing that I couldn't understand about that was, okay, Hawkeye, we get it. I mean, it's a black and white view, like, good and bad. But this is your wife, for God's sake.
And again, too, she had been raped and stuff.
Your wife was drugged and raped by some dude. Like, I can understand your convictions, but that was your wife. I mean, that should be the one instance where you're like, yeah, you know what, honey, you were right. He should have, yeah.
And again,
if you didn't do it, I would have. You know what I mean? That should have been the one instance where Hawkeye should have said that, especially given his past.
Oh yeah,
he definitely had a checkered past. He definitely didn't have an easy go of it when he was a young man.
And forget that
he skirted the line.
Forget that it's his wife. It's like this is a rape victim. Maybe she's not in her right mind. Maybe she was not in her right mind.
Absolutely, yeah.
There was trauma. There's definitely trauma there. That was a trauma response.
Yeah. No. When I was reading this at the time, I was on Mockingbird's side.
Yeah.
I was like, no, Hawkeye's being an idiot over this. Total idiot.
I mean,
and I wanted to see more of this trio of Mockingbird, Tiger, and Moon Knight. I wanted to see more of them.
And again, I think it was like, well, that was Englehart, right? I mean, it was kind of him making room so Vision and Scarlet Witch can come back. We had Mantis in here, so.
Yeah, and I liked that too, that Mantis came back. where we last saw her in the Silver Surfer annual, right?
Well, they mentioned her because supposedly she wasn't. Oh wait, was he looking for her? Or was she dead? Supposedly dead at that point? Because I think
it was one of the backups that they didn't put on the app. I think.
Oh yeah. Well, he thought she was dead, but she wasn't. Yeah.
Yeah, and she appeared on Earth, and she's like, "Well, I've got to seek out some old friends of the Avengers or something." So that's where she ends up. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it was cool to see her with this team because, as I said before, I love Mantis, the real Mantis, and I felt like her time with the Avengers was too short.
Mm-hmm.
Like this was a character that was really unique and interesting, and she wasn't in the Avengers for very long, and I felt like that was always kind of weird.
But yeah, I mean, 3 different art styles in these 3 issues of this episode. But like, I like the way the High Evolutionary looks in every issue of this.
I do too.
I mean, you go from Art Adams to Cynthia Martin to Al Milgrom, and the High Evolutionary looks different in all, and I still like all 3 styles.
Me too. Yeah, he looks really good, and he's written well too. Yeah, none of the writing makes him seem kind of. There's a good continuity, I should say, between all of the different dialogue depictions of the High Evolutionary. It's very consistent, but. Yeah, all the art's great. I mean, I love how we have these different varieties of art styles. It's fantastic.
And again, it's what was I going to say? Oh, like current art styles. I don't know if it's like because of like digital like ways of drawing and stuff. A lot of the current stuff, which the art is good, but it's like a lot of people's work is very similar to other people's. I love this era because like you could like glance at a page and be like, oh, this is Al Milgrom.
Totally, it's very distinctive.
Yes.
And Cynthia Martin, too, or Art Adams. You could look at any of those pages and almost identify immediately. Same thing with John Byrne or...
Ron Lim.
Ron Lim, yeah. Kyron Dwyer that did some of the other artwork.
Hell, 1988, Todd McFarlane.
Rob Liefeld.
Yeah.
I mean, those are artists that you definitely have distinctive styles that you identify the minute you see it.
I mean,
Perez is another one.
George,
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, totally. Like these are artists that have a very unique artistic vision. It's easily identifiable.
I mean, you look at a Perez, or like I was going to say, like the McFarlane Spider-Man at the time, you barely have to glance at that thing and be like, oh yeah, that's a Todd McFarlane Spider-Man.
Yeah, right. Just for like a split second, yeah. Or like a Jim Starlin.
Yeah.
Or, John Buscema, Sal Buscema, John Romita Sr., John Romita Jr. Like, yeah, you can look at those panels, or those pages rather, and be like, yeah, I know who drew this. I don't have to look at the credits, but
but they did put the pinups in here on the app on this one.
Oh, for the West Coast Avengers one?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they did. Yeah, that's so weird how they pick and choose what they put up.
I know. It's so funny, just the jokes for each one, because just Hawkeye. If we lose any more members, I will really be a solo Avenger.
Yeah. And Wonder Man, good thing I'm a movie star and not a secretary. When it comes to typing, I'd have to rely on the Hunt and Pex method.
As he's lifting weights.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know why he's lifting weights. That's all ionic power there.
Yeah, he doesn't need to do any of that. Yeah.
And I know he doesn't know that at this point, but he can alter his body,
Yeah.
Vision and Scarlet Witch.
It's a great one of Mockingbird walking out. Avengers, I quit.
Yep. Then there's like Tigra laying on a bunch of pillows and stuff.
Yeah, I love that one. Mantis is a great one of Mantis.
Yes.
Dr. Pym.
The joke. The Mantis is floating there. Instead of transcendental meditation, she goes a new meditation technique. This one calls it transcendental levitation.
Nicely done, Steve Englehart.
And Pym looking at the pictures of all his identities going, who shall I be next?
Who shall I be next? He's even got the red and white outfit from like his first few adventures.
Yeah. And then Moon Knight and Avenger First, Khonshu Fist.
I love that. The bummer about having these pinups when you're a kid is that you really want to put them up on your wall, but you don't want to chew up your comic book by doing it.
So it's like if you don't want to jack up your issue, you're like, I need to buy 2 of this.
Right. I'll buy another copy and cut that one up, cut the pinups out of that one, which I didn't do at the time, but I thought about it.
I love the Patsy Walker. I love when this era, like they tried to give Damian Hellstrom like a superhero style costume.
Yes, with the red and yeah. I know that didn't last for very long.
What's your power? I'm the son of the devil.
Yeah, that was the unpublished cover to issue number 4 of the West Coast Avengers.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's get to this High Evolutionary origin chapter here.
Chapter 9.
Yes, which basically most of this is just basically recapping like it's some Thor and Hulk stuff, because it starts with right after his first appearance from Thor 134 and 135, whereas Thor and Jane Foster take off. The High Evolutionary packed his new men into the base and took off, basically thinking, glad I had Horish Graption put that star drive on my base like decades ago.
Turns out that was smart forethinking.
I hope we survive.
Yeah, and then they basically they land on what will eventually become Counter-Earth.
Yes. Yeah. They start to evolve in animals and
doing more tinkering.
The new men eventually start going to war.
Mm-hmm.
And then one day, a certain figure very familiar to Justin shows up.
Yeah.
Incredible Hulk.
Certain green giant wades his way through the Knights of Wundagore.
And the High Evolutionary gets injured, so this is when he takes off the armor and uses that evolution machine on himself. The first time he's used it on a human. Yeah. And what he basically...
He becomes the ultimate.
Yeah, basically almost like an energy being. So before he takes off into space, he de-evolves the animals, returns them to normal, and sends Hulk home. So
yeah.
Man, I mean, it was good, but I was like, we didn't get one Hulk smash in this.
Yeah, that was Tales to Astonish 94 through 96 from 1967. So he was saying Hulk smash back then.
Because all he really says is something floating in air above me. Shouldn't it be like something floating in air above Hulk?
Yeah, right. And then Hulk smash. Yeah. I never read those Tales to Astonish issues. Russell's going to be covering all of the Tales to Astonish Hulk stuff in the form of some like short solo episodes on Gamma Charge. So I got to get in on that because I haven't read a lot of those.
I'm trying to remember. I might have read those maybe once, and if so, it's probably like at least 20 years ago.
Yeah, they looked really good. I've been meaning to read them for years, but never got around to it.
So I'm trying to remember. I think I got the was it the first volume of remember those black and white essential volumes?
Oh yes,
yeah.
That was how I first read the first run of Moon Knight.
Me too. Yeah, I got that essential Moon Knight. Yeah, I got a bunch of Spider-Man ones. Got some of the X-Men ones. I remember I got at least the first volume of Hulk. I can't remember if I got one or two, but yeah, a lot of those are out of print now.
Those are. Yeah,
I think
a couple of Avengers ones of those. The Avengers. I had.
Although my comic shop guy helped me track down a few years ago because me and Ray were going on about it because there's only in 2 volumes you can get the complete first run of Jessica Drew Spider-Woman.
Oh, true. Yes.
Yeah. It's essential volume 1 and volume 2. Yeah, that's the whole 50 issues. And there might be some of the Marvel 2-in-1s I think are in there because she appears there too. So
okay. Yeah, they haven't collected that original Spider-Woman series much at all. I think they only ever did it in that black and white volume and also the Marvel Masterworks, but I think that's it.
Yeah, probably.
Unless probably Ray knows for sure. I'm sure, but I don't think they've collected it in like an omnibus or epic collections, so I'm sure that those are highly sought after.
And I know last year they did a new collection. They did like the whole 25 issues, the original She-Hulk run.
Oh yeah, the Savage She-Hulk. Yeah, that would be worth tracking down. That's a great series.
Yeah. So yeah, this one basically just ends with the High Evolution, the evolved High Evolutionary going off into space.
Yeah, to begin his quest as an infinite being. But we'll see him again in Chapter 10 of the High Evolutionary's origin story.
That's right. All right. So thoughts, Justin, before we wrap this up?
Well, all three of these were great.
Oh, yeah.
This was really, I think, where the Evolutionary War hit its stride. I feel like all three of these annuals were really strong, had great writing, great art, great stories, and moved the whole overall narrative of the Evolutionary War along very well, without getting it too bogged down with too much unnecessary extra stuff and details.
Yeah, and I like how some of these, I mean, again, like I said, the beginning ones weren't bad, but I think it's really moving along now, and I like how a lot of these writers, like, wove their Evolutionary War story into, like, their ongoing, like, you know, like, the Fantastic Four last week, and...
Right. Yeah, because that Fantastic Four annual, like, that didn't even need to feature the High Evolutionary or his soldiers at all. Like, that could have been completely someone else. Or all of that could have been removed, and it could have been just about the Fantastic Four versus the Inhumans for the whole story. But Steve Englehart wove that Evolutionary War stuff into that annual very well.
And it makes
sense.
It makes sense, yeah. I mean, the High Evolutionary I could see him going after Inhuman DNA, yeah.
Sure. He'd be definitely interested in the Terrigen Mists. He would be completely interested in that. The only thing that was weird to me was the Spider-Man annual where they had the reality machine out. Like, that was the only part that I was like, I don't get it, but that was it. Everything else made sense, and it was
again, too, it's Gerber, I guess. You know, if he wants an appearance of the Man Thing, you know, that's
right. It makes sense in that aspect. Yeah.
That's the thing. It's like some stories. Does it seem like the High Evolutionary can just be whatever they want him to be? Because I mean, he's supposed to be a geneticist, but now he's opening holes in reality. You know, it is the nexus of all realities, but still, he can come up with a dimensional machine and stuff.
Yeah, and he wasn't really interested in it in the previous few chapters of the story, but all of a sudden he's really keen on it.
And again, I know that armor's indestructible, but it seems like they make him, you know, if they need him to be invulnerable, he's invulnerable. He can change sizes and stuff, you know. So.
Yeah, it's never really, I don't think, if I remember right, even in the official handbook, they never really go into detail about what the limits of his powers are.
Oh, he's just tinkering with his own DNA.
He can do whatever he wants. He's the High Evolutionary.
Any more, and he'd be that a-hole Adam Warlock. Jeez. I hate Adam Warlock. He's like, he's the best at everything, and especially Starlin's writing him. He's such a pretentious a-hole.
Can do no wrong. Yeah. Except when he's the Magus, then he can do anything but wrong.
Exactly.
He can always do wrong.
Oh, but I did like these Kazar appearances in some of these issues. That reminds me, again, we always say this, but next year I want to cover some of that Kazar from the 90s. Like I said, I'm pretty sure that's Mark Waid. So
yes, we were talking about that. We definitely should, because I haven't read any of those. And I would love to.
I probably haven't read those since the 90s. So.
I would even be willing to go back and read the older Kazar stuff too,
yeah.
from the 70s, the 80s. Like, I know we talked about that too, but that stuff is prime, and I would love to cover that. Yeah, it's prime stuff.
To say at least a month. I was trying to can't remember how long that 90s stuff went, but I wanted to try to squeeze in all that 90s stuff, but unless we do 2 months at Kazar.
Yeah, if I remember right, I don't think all of it was on the app. I think maybe the first 12 issues were on there.
Yeah,
because maybe by the time we get around to it, maybe they'll have added more.
Maybe, because I never finished that series, so I'm kind of curious about that too.
That would be cool too. Yeah, you could see how it all ended up. Yeah, we got to add that to the schedule for sure. I know that if you're listening and you're doing the drinking game, then take a shot. But
Noel's drunk by now.
Yeah.
Oh wait, we want to get Lilith drunk? Well, that's kind of impossible because her tolerance is so high. But yes, this episode right here is the penultimate episode of Evolutionary War. Take a drink, Lilith.
That's right. Penultimate.
That's right, kids, because next week we're going to wrap up the Evolutionary War with Spectacular Spider-Man Annual 8, Avengers Annual 17, and we'll see a different outcome of that war in What If Volume 2, Number 1.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
Yes.
I love that What If issue, yeah.
So yeah, kids, send your thoughts on those. Email us, CapesandLunatics@gmail.com, or call the voicemail 614-382-2737. That's 614-38-CAPES. And again, find all things Capes and Lunatics, episodes, merchandise, social media, the Patreon. Join the Patreon elite.
Yes.
Like Justin.
Join me in the elite. Yes. All the bonus episodes, Phil and Lilith are covering Heroes Reborn currently. And that has to be heard to be believed.
And again, we welcome everyone, but we need some women over there. It's a complete and total sausage fest over there right now. So please, ladies, if you have a few extra bucks, please, come on join the Patreon. But find everything at tubespace.io/CapesandLunatics Podcast Network. That's tubespace.io/CapesandLunatics Podcast Network. All right, Patreon elite member Justin. You're here every week. You're on We Are the Night, the Batman Podcast. Once a month.
Talk about Azrael once a month.
That's right, kids. Doing the Lord's work, literally.
That's right. St. Dumas's work.
Yes, exactly. And remember, kids, get in touch with that Predator and Prey podcast, which you're about to hear, where to find them, because demand that they do a Predator Batman stuff with us in a crossover. They have to convince one of their hosts to do that, so please do that. Exactly. All right. But speaking of that and Gamma Charge, Justin, where can people find all of this?
Yes, as Phil said, I could be found over at Predator and Prey, a Yocha podcast with both Russell and Ray, where we cover everything to do with Fox's Predator once a month, including action figures, comic books, movies, and more. And yes, send in your petitions so that we can bump up Batman versus Predator on the schedule. Yes. Right now we're covering the Dark Horse Years Omnibus of the Predator, as well as the new series by Ed Brisson and Nizo Diaz, which is excellent. If you haven't read that, do check it out. And also, Russell and I can be found twice a month over at Gamma Charge, the strongest podcast there is, where we talk about everything to do with the Hulk and She-Hulk twice a month. And we also have a Patreon as well, so do think about that if you'd like. We do bonus episodes once a month there too. And last but certainly not least, the Lost Library of Legends, my solo podcast comic book project, is almost done, in which I will be once a month talking about lost and undiscovered comic book gems from the last 30 to 40 years.
Yay! Finally.
Yay. It's almost ready after a year and a half of talking about it.
Scream at!
Meanwhile, I probably the one who slowed him down. I'm like, hey, do some shows with me.
No, it wasn't you that slowed me down. It was just my own. At first, I was over-editing. I was recording stuff, and I was over-editing it. I was being too much of a perfectionist, and then I was like, Justin, you need to let it go. This is crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Leave the imperfections.
That's right. People can deal with my listening to my ums and my ahs and my breaths and stuff like that.
You can beat that out of yourself, Just listen back to all your episodes. I know when I started, that's what I did. I listened back to all. I'm like, I hear all those ums and ahs. So eventually,
it makes a little mental note.
It's like next time. Always in the back of my head now. I'm just like, you know what? Silence is better than ums and ahs.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, but it's that's what was. That's really what was slowing me down. I was over editing, and it was fine. But it's almost ready. It's almost ready.
Yay!
Yeah.
All right, kids. Thank you for joining us again. Next week, one more Spider-Man, and we wrap up the Evolutionary War in Avengers, and then we get the What If version. Which is quite interesting.
After that, it's Captain America time.
Yes. Yes, 3 episodes of Captain America in July, kids. And the Serpents, the Serpent Society and 2 of them, and some Skrulls. The Secret Invasion is coming.
Send in your thoughts on the Serpent Society. We'd love to hear those.
Send them in the Evolutionary War. Come on, lazy guys. Get going.